everybody, I'm Brian Wiedman, and thank you for joining me on the Gavel Strikes. I said X would be here today. Unfortunately, he's not feeling well. He is not, so I'm doing the show somewhat by myself. I may go to the field to get some reporting news out in the field, but for right now, we've got a great show for you. This is our signature sale. Our signature sale starts tomorrow. It's been going on for the last 3 weeks, but it goes live tomorrow. And there are millions and millions of dollars of comics and comic art. I brought a few $1 million with me today. So you guys are going to see some items that you never really get to see very often unless we have our big sales. But to start out, we're going to start out with a few weekly items. I brought this Detective Comics page. This is one that X kind of picked out for you. It's kind of like a rip on the Detective 33 cover. Not the 33. Is it 33 or 31? I can't remember all of a sudden. But with the Neil Adams, but also the great background cover that they did back. And the girl looks like Harley Quinn. So this is a great piece. It's in our weekly sale, and it's jumped quite a bit. It's at $7.75, but it also has the prelim to it too. It's not just the page, the cover itself, but it's this prelim, which is really neat. To kind of got a great insight as to the artist idea. It might be a print. This is a print? The cover's a print? No. I don't know. It looks pretty good to me. Yeah, it's pencil. So Tommy, can you bring it up the description so I'm not giving false information here? Yeah, it's preliminary cover and pencil's original art. It's a signed print. It is a signed print. Boy, that really looks good for a signed print. But it does have the preliminary. Boy, I thought that was real. You can even see the shine of what looks like pencils. That's kind of scary. Those printers are getting good. Okay, so we have the preliminary and then a signed print. So don't listen to me originally. It's not the original cover. But that's a great piece. And it's really kind of neat to see how they used it as a rip off the old covers. And Neil Adams pencils. Yep. Okay, the next we have a Spider-Man Alpha page. It is from issue 1, and it's page 33, and it's got Thor on the cover. I'm sorry, it's a Captain Marvel page, Captain Marvel 57. I was looking at the one behind it. This is Captain Marvel 57 it's a great action page with Captain Marvel fighting Thor. Some great items. What are we at on the price here? Because this is a prime page. Now we've jumped all the way up to $12.50. This is what you're looking for as far as these great action pages. A lot of people want all the action. It's what you want on your wall. It's absolutely beautiful. If you love Captain Marvel and you love Thor, then you can't really get much better. You can see he's throwing the hammer at Captain Marvel there. It's absolutely gorgeous. That's a great page. Okay, now's the Spider-Man Alpha, issue 1, page 33. And this is really cool because you've got this great, he's putting on his costume and this amazing splash of Spider-Man. It's just the pose is everything you want. It's jumping off the page at you. Everything you want in Spider-Man. What my reporter in the field says it's under $500. Is that true? It's not anymore. It's at $7.75. Yeah, I mean, what more do you want for Spider-Man except for him battling a bad guy? This is the ultimate Spider-Man panels, as far as I'm concerned. Just so you know, it does look like I'm going out in the field. I have X in my ear. He's kind of telling me some of this stuff as we go along. He knows about this as well as I do. But if you hear me kind of or see me kind of cock my head, it's because I'm also listening to him telling me what to say. So he he is here. Don't think that he abandoned you. He didn't. He's just not feeling well. We didn't think him coughing on camera was probably a good thing for you guys. So the next two pieces I brought myself from the signature sale, and then we're gonna get. Well, let's do this. Let's do the Buzz Sawyer first, because the Buzz Sawyer is also weekly, right? Okay, so this Buzz Sawyer is in the weekly sale also. It's from the Gary Citro family collection, and we're going to have a lot of these coming up in the next few weeks. And to X said that he brought it along because it's a great sci-fi piece, and it is. You've got the jet planes here, all the detail and across, the hatching here. You've got the detail going through the building. You've got the UFO, which is really cool. That's not very common for too many. I mean, that's what makes these kind of very interested. People are very interested in them because of that. This is a great piece, and the collection is really cool. Can you tell me a little bit more about it, X? It's a collection from Louis Citro, who worked in the industry for a while. And most of the collection consists of Sundays. So we're going to have a lot of them coming up, in all different types of artists. So be on the lookout for those. There's going to be some great, great items coming up in the next bunch of weeks in our weekly sale. 6 to 10 weeks, he said. 6 to 10 weeks of great Sundays from these great artists. That's not very common to get that many Sundays all at once. That is amazing. So be on the lookout for those. Those will be great. The next two items, as I said, I brought along from the signature sale, and then we're going to get into the signature sale art and be able to kind of show you some of the art, and then we'll go to the comics I brought. But I brought these two specifically. The first one I brought is a Captain Marvel cover by Art Germ. If you're not very familiar with him, he's very popular modern artist, has a very good presence on Instagram, and he was a teacher at one point. But the detail that he does is absolutely stunning, and it's very uncommon to get a piece like this from him because he's now transitioned into the digital art, and so most of the originals were done early on in his career. And this is the Life of Captain Marvel, and it's the #1 variant from 2018. And most of the stuff he does now are illustration commissions, but not published pieces. This is a published cover, and as you can tell by the price, it's got a lot of interest in it. And when we got this in, I was very excited because I don't normally get to see his artwork a lot, that's not digital. It's really nice to see, be able to hold one of the pieces by him and a newer modern artist. It's great. The next piece I brought in was a Simone Bianchi piece, and this is from one of my consigners. I absolutely love this piece, and the reason I like this so much, I've always been a big Green Goblin, Spider-Man fan, them doing battles, but what I really like about this piece is it's more towards the Marvels storyline where you would have the third-person perspective, the crowd kind of watching this. The Alex Ross made that famous in the 90s, and this kind of reminds me of that you've got somebody in a modern day taking their cell phone out, and this perspective of seeing Spider-Man and Green Goblin fight each other, and then you have the little bit outside of the picture frame with the pumpkin bomb and all that stuff. I absolutely love this piece. When I got this in, I lost my mind. I wish I could afford this. This is probably one of my favorite pieces in the auction just because of the perspective and how neat this is. And Simone Bianchi is absolutely stunning. I mean, I love his artwork. It's so beautiful. Art Germ, Simone Bianchi, and I would say, who's the third that I really, really, Gabriel Deodato I really like a lot, even though I'm not a big fan of that impressionistic work. I think his watercolors are far out. They're absolutely amazing. So those are the few I brought. I know X brought a couple back here. Let's see what we've got first. We've got this Howard the Duck page, or this cover 23. And what's really cool about this is it's kind of a throwback to Star Wars. You know, this was done in the late 1970s, early 1980s. Tommy, can you bring up yeah, so this was done in what year? 1978, so directly after Star Wars came out, a year after Star Wars came out. And this is kind of a play off of Star Wars. You can see that kind of, the Marvel characters being used as Star Wars characters. It's absolutely amazing. And really it's one of the coolest. I mean, if you really wanted a Howard the Duck and you were also a Star Wars fan, you couldn't possibly combine two even better. And so George Lucas, from what X told me, George Lucas, of course, created Star Wars, and he directed the Star Wars, and Empire Strikes Back and all that. But he also directed the 1980s Howard the Duck movie, which I didn't know. So I know a lot of people don't like that, but that is a great, maybe that is a reason for the crossover here, and how, and one of the reasons maybe Lucas got into that was because of this. It's just a great piece that is in our weekly sale this starting tomorrow. It's going to be tomorrow, So tomorrow's the platinum session, and then Friday is going to be, or Thursday is also, I think, comics, and then comic art is on Friday. I may have had that reversed, but I'm one of the days. This next piece was done by Alex Ross. Huge Alex Ross fan. Huge Alex Ross fan. It's so detailed, it almost looks like a photo. Yeah, you always see covers by Ross, but you rarely see internal pages. When you do, they're usually panels, but this is an incredible splash. All this is all pencil detail. It's this montage. You have a Harlequin in here. You have people being affected by Joker's laughing gas. You got Joker in various forms. The amount of time it had to have taken him to do this page. I can't imagine he did it in a day. I would be stunned if he did it in less than a day. But if he did it in 5 days, it wouldn't surprise me, the amount of detail that's in it. It's absolutely stunning. I can't imagine you wouldn't want this on your wall if you're a Joker fan, or even a Harlequin fan. Is absolutely breathtaking. And the price is showing why it's that. I mean, it's at $16,500. But if you can afford it, who wouldn't want it? And the last art piece I brought is the World Finest cover. It's the World Finest 171. I really think this is cool. I almost brought this myself, but then X pulled it out. I actually took it off my list and he put it on. But I think it's really cool, this dichotomy of, I need to destroy this list before Batman can figure it out. Oh, I need to destroy this before Superman can figure it out. But then they both, and they're both in one's in their Fortress of Solitude, the other one's in the Batcave. They're doing this, and they already know who each other are by this time. They had well discovered each other's identity. And what more would you want from a Batman Superman cover, World's Finest cover? To be honest with you, I am not a fan of DC stories at this time period. I think they're awful and they're cheesy, but boy, the artwork is absolutely stunning. Look at the shadows. I mean, how good the shadows are, especially here, deciphering what they're doing. It lines up with how you would think a shadow should. Who's the artist on this? It's Kurt Swan. I mean, the amount of thought process that went into it, plus the bottle city of Candor in there. Klein was a great inker. This is a great cover. If you wanted a DC cover, get it, because what more could you possibly want in a DC cover? It's beautiful. What's it at? And X just said it's about $7,000. Yeah, it's $7,700. Now it won't stay there, obviously, but it's $7,700. If this were a Marvel cover, it would be quadruple that. It would be ridiculously valuable compared to a Marvel cover. I mean, don't sleep on this one. It's a great piece. It's a great cover. So that's all the artwork for you that we have. X wanted me to say thank you, and he wished he could have joined us, but at least he was able to tell us through the earpiece some of the stuff. That wasn't all me, folks. I don't know all that stuff as well as he does. I wish I did, but that's why we have him on the show, and we love him. And reading through the teleprompter, he says, "Good night and good luck." That's what he says. So thanks for joining us, X. We appreciate it. And he's with us in spirit. So, okay. So next I'll go on to the comics. I kind of overdid it. I like showing these off. I think these are really cool. So I kind of go with, some things that you would like to see, some items that maybe you haven't ever seen, have never held and always wanted to hold, but seeing them live, I think, is just kind of just as good sometimes, especially if you've always wanted to see that one book that you've never been able to see. The first thing I have is this Superman 53. It is a retelling of his origin. It is from the Promise pedigree, and we have a bunch of Promise books coming up here in the sale, and it's just simple. It's, one consignor thinks it's time to sell, even though we just had the sale last year, and these are still some of the best books I've ever seen in my life. I have a few more that I brought with. I can tell you, I saw some of the Promise books raw, and they are beyond belief some of the most beautiful things. Now, compare them to a Mile High. I have a Mile High coming up next to show you, and there's this argument, what's better, Promise, Mile High, Promise, Mile High. I can tell you that the Promise has the better story. The Mile Highs may look better, but the Promise has the story. So I don't know. I don't really think it matters. It's the best one to come out. It's the best pedigree to come out in 50 years since the Mile High. I don't think it matters. To be honest with you, they're both top tier. If one is in front of the other, it's only in front of the other by a smidgen. So don't ignore a Promise book just because you think the Mile High is better. Or likewise, don't ignore the Mile High just because you think the Promise is better. They both have their qualities. This is a retelling of the origin. It's a 9.4. Tell me, what's the census on this? It's got to be astronomical. Most of the Promise books were some of the highest ever graded. Yeah, so this is tied for highest graded in 9.4. There's no other higher graded books. And the next highest graded, once you get past the tie, is a 9.0. So you've got a gap in between a 9.0 and a 9.4. There are no 9.2s. It's amazing. So that's that one. The next one I wanted to show you was a Mile High. And this book is unbelievable. This is More Fun Comics 55. It's the first appearance of Dr. Fate, and it is a 9.6. It should be the highest graded at this. I can't imagine there are any higher graded, but we shall see here, right? Yes, it's the lone highest graded. There's a 9.4, but this is the highest grade. There are only 32 blue labels on the census, 32 universal labels. This is from the Mile High. It is the highest. It's got white pages. I have seen some Mile High pages. When they say white, they are white pages. They're not cream or anything like that. They are spectacular. And the covers, usually when you see these out of the cases, they get a little muted in the cases. The light bend's a little weird. When you hold these raw, the covers almost look wet. That's how brand new they look, how much cover gloss is on them. The Mile Highs are spectacular, just like the Promise collection books. I'll never say anything different. They're both incredible. You definitely want to get your eyes on those. There's a lot. There's a bunch I have. We have a lot of Promise books coming up again. We have some Mile Highs, but some great items here. This is a Marvel Comics 1. Marvel Comics 1 from 1939. This started the Marvel, this obviously it was timely, and then it changed to Alice, and then it changed to Marvel in 1961. But Marvel Comics #1 started the what we have as the Marvel Universe. We would not have that without Marvel Comics 1. I tell everybody this is the 5th most important book in comic history. I rank obviously Action Comics 1, Detective Comics 27, and then we have a little bit of an argument. I say it's Batman 1. Other people will argue emphatically it's Superman 1. I say it's Batman 1 because you have the Joker and the Catwoman. It's a standalone book. It's not a reprint. Whereas Superman 1, even though it's a standalone, the first standalone book dedicated to a hero, it's also reprinted. Reprints the story. So I'm a bigger fan of new information and new stories more than I am of a reprint. So I rank that above Superman. I think Marvel Comics 1 is #5. I think that, and sometimes I'll flip it to 4 based on when you're talking to me. But I think it is the top 5 in the top 5 for sure. It's so important. We wouldn't have the Fantastic Four without it. We wouldn't have Spider-Man. I mean, how popular is Spider-Man? Wouldn't have that without Marvel Comics. And so, it's nice to see. And this is a 7.5, so it's no slouch. It's not a 3.2 or 3.2. It's not a 3.0 or 3.5 is what I meant. It's not a lower grade, and even a lower grade I wouldn't kick out of my collection. I have heard recent arguments about this discussion with the November versus October label. Yeah, my argument is get it when you can get it. Don't wait for an October label. I've had a bunch of discussions with the dealers about this. They're waiting for that October label. They want the October label. Good luck. It doesn't really, to me, it doesn't really matter. It says October versus November. I would get this book if I could afford it. I wouldn't be waiting around. But hey, to each your own. If you only want an October label, I haven't seen one. I haven't seen one in a long time. I don't even know the last time I did see one. So I guess holding your breath, it doesn't really help you at that point. So that's my argument to that is if you can afford it and you love it, get it while you can. You just don't see them enough to be able to say, I want to hold out. If you saw them once every 3 months, then okay, hold out. But if you see them once a year, and most of them are coming up our November, I wouldn't be holding out while the prices go up, 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 and up. And please ask questions. If you do have questions, please send them in. I would be more than happy to answer them for you. The next one and the next two are promise books. I brought along this gorgeous Mask #1. This should be tied for the second highest graded if I remember correctly. I think a 9.0 is the highest graded. I can't remember. I think the #2 we had here. Yeah, nope, this is the highest graded. It's the highest graded at an 8.5. So I was wrong. The highest graded at an 8.5. I just want to tell you how rare a book is in grade if the 8.5 is the highest grade. It blows my mind when I hear of a 7.0 being the highest grade or a 6.0 or an 8.5 because typically high grade books are found in the 9.0 ranges. If you're getting an 8.5 as the highest graded book, it is superbly rare. They go into collections, they never come out. They were beat up as, when people were kids. To have an 8.5 and it be the highest graded. And before the Promise book came out, what was it? The Black Hood, the Archie books, the Black Hood comics, like the highest graded were 6.0s or 6.5s until the Promise came out, and they were either 9.0, 9.2s. I mean, things like that. When you have the highest graded as a 6.0 and a 9.0 comes out, is found out, in this spectacular collection, the differences are unbelievable. It's so rare to see those books, and a 6.0 is the highest grade, and all of a sudden a 9 something comes out. It's unbelievably different, and how rare it is to find them in even a 6.0 grade to begin with. The next book is another Promise book. I brought this Detective 114. It's a 9.8. What I like about this, I have a question. During the live auction, when you are the auctioneer, you would say, I love that they brought this up. I actually had somebody talk to me about this. During the live auction, when you are the auctioneer, you would say, excellent use of the cut bid. Can you share with us what are the cut bidding situations which you would deem excellent use of the cut? There were two situations. I was actually talking to a colleague about this yesterday. This is a very good question. I am on the podium. I do say that a lot. The first instance is when you win on a cut. It's incredibly rare because when you cut, you're extending the bid, but it's very easy for a person, since you've gone halfway to the bid, it's very easy for them to go, oh, well, it's only $500 more, I'll bid. So when you win on the cut, I think that's a great timing. It's all about timing. And you'll see a cut bid come in, you'll see the next bid. Another cut bid come in, you'll see the next bid. And the third cut bid will actually win the item because they timed it just right. So timing is important. I think it's excellent. Now, it's arbitrary when I say that. You can't, there's no specific time to use the cut bid there that you're going to win. It's so arbitrary. That's number one. The second time that I would say it's the right time to use the cut bid is setting yourself up for a bid increment. So let's say you're at 17, let's say you're at 16,000 and you're the $17,000 bid. If you bid 17, the next bid's going to be 18, your bid's going to be 19, and the other person is going to be on the cut or the increment at $20,000, and the increments jump at $20,000. However, if you do it differently, if you're at the $16,000 bid and you bid 17, they bid 18 and you cut bid now for $18,500. You're forced them to bid a $19,000 bid, and you are now on the cut increment or on the increment jump. So that means when you bid on $20,000, you have an advantage because a lot of times the bid ends at $20,000, $10,000, $50,000, $5,000. All these increment jumps. I keep wanting to say cut. Sorry. All these increment jumps are a lot of times when people stop bidding. So if you're on that bid, you have an advantage in my mind. As an auctioneer, I think you have the advantage being on that bid jump. So if you cut the bid to get on that increment is a very, very smart use of the cut to be the one on that bid increment. Because if they don't go to 22, you've won the bid. Now, most people will then, the other way to use it is on that bid of 20, instead of going to 22, a person will use a bid of 21,000. That's also the third way of doing it. I see that more, but I don't see that winning as much. It does happen, but it doesn't win as much. Usually, if you can get yourself on the increment increase, that is the smartest use of the cut bid. That's how I would use it. I hope that answers the question. It's a great question as far as auctioneering goes. And when I'm on the phone, I do phone bidding too. I tell my clients on the phone the exact same thing. Do not use your cut bid until it makes sense. Don't waste your cut bid. You only get one per lot. You should use it when it makes the most sense, either to get on the increment jump or to really, really stretch that bid to where you're the one that finally somebody gave up. Does that answer your question? Hope that made sense. The Detective Comics 114, I actually held this book raw. I got to see it when they were grading it. And what made this collection so spectacular when it came out was how beautiful they were. But there were at least 10 double covers. This is a double cover. This has an outer cover of a 9.4 and an inner cover of a 9.6, and it's a black cover, which, as you know, black covers really, really show the flaws very easily. So to have a double cover, a black cover to boot, and it being a Golden Age book is so very rare, and this person had 10 of them in their collection. He also had 2 with no staples. So my opinion of that is, he was going to wherever he was getting his books and saying, hey, if you see double covers, I really like those. Or if you see anything weird, like no staples, a book with no staples, those are usually pitched and thrown away, or they're falling apart because they have no staples. So these were kept intact beautifully. He was getting those because he was such a good buyer of comic books. They were holding those specially aside for him because 10 in a collection is not common, not when you're buying them off the stand. So he had to actively be looking for them. It's so rare to find a double cover. I had my whole comic collecting career when I was getting them, when I was a kid and getting them through the mail, I got one. I got one double cover. He had 10. So to me, that says he's going after them. So just a theory, but I think it's kind of a good theory. I brought this book along because I don't think people understand the importance of it. This is the Better Comics #2. It's not the #1. This is from Canada in 1941, Better Comics #2. There are only 3 on the census. This is now the highest graded. Imagine you got a phone call from a client and they had some comic books, and you had an Action Comics 2 in the highest grade. Imagine you had some other books in the highest grade that you've never seen before, and they were all and instead of it being the United States, they were from Canada. Well, that's what this collection was like. I got a phone call. When I got the books in, I start looking at the rarity of certain things. The Better Comics #1 was the Action Comics for Canada. And this is their #2, so to speak. And it's the highest graded. There are only 3 on the census, and when we're talking rare, usually you're talking rare in the golden age is around 30, 40, you might even get up into 60 copies. There are 3. There are 3 on the census. As you can see, Tommy, would you like to scroll down to that? And this is taking a jump. It's almost doubled today. There's a 3.0, a 6.0, and now a 7.0. And this was the 7.0 that we brought in. There were other early Centaurs that were some of the highest graded. Some are in this auction. Some were in a weekly sale. But this collection, for whatever reason, some of the books were really chewed up and beat, but some of the books were really, really nice. But the Canadian books were especially special because, and I say especially special because we just don't ever see them. I mean, they're so rare. They're called white copies because on the inside they're in black and white. They're not color, and they only did color for the outer. And I don't know the circumstance. I wanted to look it up before I came on the show, but I forgot. But there was an import ban on American comic books at this time, and so this was their answer to Action Comics and all the superhero stuff coming on and the comics going across the border. This was their answer. They put a ban on importing U.S. comic books. I don't know why, but this was their answer. They started creating their own books, but they are exceptionally rare. I would imagine there are a bunch unfound in the Canadian provinces, but I wouldn't be holding my breath looking for a better copy than this. The fact that this is a 7.0, it should be making people's heads spin. We did put this out in our newsletter, our consignor picks, and Barry picked it out because of how rare this book is. Only 3 being on the census, and now it's jumped twice. It's doubled and then doubled again in the last day. So believe me, this has got a long way to go. When people wake up, or they have a lot of high proxy bids in on this, when people wake up on this book, you're going to see a massive uptick in interest. Whoever wins this is going to have a really rare book on their hands. I'm excited. I can't wait to see what that does. Hopefully I'm on the podium for that. I don't think I am, but I hope I will be. I brought a couple Silver Age books just because of the grades. First is a Fantastic Four number 48. As y'all know, it's the first appearance of the Silver Surfer. This isn't a 9.8. While I do see them here and there, I don't see them more than once or twice a year, tops. This is a 9.8, and it looks spectacular. I actually looked at this book. It really looks like a 9.8. It is beautiful. It's at 52,500. Yes, it's still got a ways to go, I would assume. But what's the census of 9.8s on this? I'm curious to know. He scrolled too fast. 41 9/8 out of over 7,500 graded. So you have 41 chances to get a 9/8, and every single one will cost you dearly. They are absolutely beautiful. This one especially it's gorgeous. The next Silver Age book I brought was not a 9/8, but it was close. It was the first appearance of Doc Ock and it's a 9.6. And I recently found there is a 9.8 out there. I think there's a couple, and I almost fell over because I would love to own that. I mean, it's a 9.6 I would love to own. This book is beautiful. First appearance of Doc Ock, only the third Amazing Spider-Man book itself in the run. It's outside the Amazing Fantasy 15, the Amazing Spider-Man 1, this is the next most valuable book in the whole run all of a sudden. And how many 9.8s are there? So don't hold your breath waiting for a 9.8. There are only two 9.8s, and those for sure are in people's collections and may not come out anytime soon. I wouldn't. If I had it, I'd hold on to it for 20 years. I mean, it's that rare in a 9.8. So 9.6 is about the next best thing. It's about all you'll get it until you get a chance at a 9.8. And then what will that cost you? I can't wait. Again, I can't wait to see what that goes for. I'll be on the podium for that one. I'm excited. Just very, very excited. I'm excited about these books. As you can tell, I've brought a bunch of value. And then there's the last Silver Age book. I thought this was cool. It's another FF, The First Inhumans, is an FF45, and that also is a 9.8. And I thought this was really, what I really thought was amazing about this are the deep blues. You know, as the FF48 has those deep colors, those deep browns, those tend to fade a little less easily than these blues or these greens, yellows, reds, things like that. Sometimes you're left over with fading. You know, it can fade pretty easily on some of these spectacular high-grade books, so you got to keep them away from the sun. We've said that a bunch on the podcast. Don't keep your stuff anywhere near light. As you can see, this is amazing. It was kept that way, and this is not a pedigree. This is a normal book that somebody had, and it was just kept so perfectly nice after all these years. I mean, realize that this is from 1965. This will be 60 years old in 2 years. It's 58 years old and it's a 9.8. That blows my mind. It makes my head hurt to think that we have something 58 years old. I'm not 58 years old yet, and you can see I'm not perfect. I've lost my hair. It's gray. I mean, look at how beautiful this book is after its age and how well it was kept after all that time. Absolutely stunning. Along with the other two. I mean, only the most superficial flaws in a 9.6. The last book I have for you is kind of a surprise. I thought you guys would like to... Aw, they didn't give me the Detective 27. That's a bummer. I was going to bring out the Tech 27 for you too, but they only gave me the Batman 1. This book is part of the Fantastic Collection. This is the first book to have its own special label for a collection. And the story behind this is a little different, you know, and it's going to be made as part of a movie. It's kind of neat. Selling Superman, the film, you can see it on the label. It'll be sellingsuperman.com. But what's really amazing about this is the family itself had no idea the father was collecting these books, to the detriment of the family. It kind of broke them apart, but now that they have this, it was kind of a shock after he passed. What do we do with it? You know, how do we go about, you know, selling this? We didn't even know about it. The family was kept unaware of this the whole time, and that makes the book really unique. You know, most people know about the books that they have, or the family has been told at some point, hey, this is what's going on. This is what I have. If something happens to me, this is how you take care of that. It's not usually a discovery in some fashion, especially with books of serious value. But that was the case here. And as you can see, it's an 8.0. And if you look really closely on the website, it even presents nicer. Now, technically an 8.0 is an 8.0 is an 8.0, right? But it even presents nicer than an 8.0. And I hate that. I hate saying that. I hate it presents well. I've never really liked that term. But unfortunately, it's beautiful. And so when you know, you almost have to say it in this case. The old cliche of it presents well. Look at how clean the yellows are, how clean the reds are. It's a stunning book. So unfortunately, I thought I was going to have the Detective 27. I'm kind of bummed I didn't check. A little upset. But as you can see on the website, it's at $1.1 million. It's a 6.0. It's a beautiful book. I wish I had that with me, but I got to hold it in my hands. So I got to hold that along with a Batman and two Batmans and a Superman at one point on my Instagram. You can see the picture. Guys, I gotta tell you, I am so excited for tomorrow. There's my Instagram handle, Heritage Comics Creator, if you want to join me. I got to be honest, I'm so excited for tomorrow because I'm on the podium for the Platinum session. So, bring your wallets, guys. Bring your checkbooks. I'm super excited. I hope we do really well. We've got a lot of great items for you. Any questions out there in TV land, any YouTube land, anything that you want to? I like the question about the use of the cut and why I say that. Sometimes also the problem is you get in the habit of saying things. That's the other problem I have on a podium is sometimes I say things, but I do say good use of the cut. It's not common that I say that because you want on the cut. It's not normal. So any questions out there for me? Anything you guys would like to know? As always, you should subscribe to the channel. You can also listen to us on Spotify and iTunes. But we're getting close. Tommy and I were talking about it yesterday. We're getting close to our 1-year anniversary of doing this. It'll be somewhere, what did you say, June or July, Tommy? July, so it's coming up fast. We're on episode like 18 or 19 right now. It's getting there, and we will hopefully we're going to do something really cool for the 1-year anniversary. We've got a lot of time to plan it. Any questions out there for me? If not, I would like to thank you very much for joining me. Too bad X couldn't be here. I'm sure he really wanted to be, but this was a great show. We had a lot of cool things, a lot of things to look forward tomorrow to. And if there are no questions out there, I will see you. I am Brian Wiedman. I'm with Heritage Auctions and the Gavel Strikes. And tune in 2 weeks. We'll be back.